Welcome back to the channel. Just got done watching part 3 of Crisis on Infinite Earths on Sky 1 that just premiered now on the telly. This was a truly excellent piece of drama as a episode that is culminating a 5-part story arc. It does feel like the middle chapter in something truly monumental. This is on the scale of something like Empire Strikes Back or Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. This is in fact a Flash episode, so it is ongoing with season 6 of the Flash TV show and is directed by David McWeirter, who has coincidentally also directed episodes of Flash previously and also episodes of Supergirl. And the way this episode is constructed and so finely tapestry put together in a way that all the time it's layering and it's building every single element that we are verging towards, which is going to be part 4 tomorrow evening, which is in fact a Arrow episode. Unfortunately for us here in the UK, obviously on British telly, we did not get part 2 shown. So again, this is a no spoiler review. I'm not going to go too much heavily onto the fine points of the details. Again, awesome cameos in this episode. We even get that use of that number again. In the last one, it was Earth 66. In this one, it's Earth 666. I'm not going to say anything more on that. I think you already kind of know where that might be headed towards. There's another TV show of a certain character within the DC universe that we're going to get to see. And it does contain or connect to John Constantine. I'm not going to say any more than that because that was such an awesome cameo in itself. But there are many others sprinkled throughout this episode. In particular, a really good one harkening back to a classic early 2000s show, which again, I'm not going to say anything more about. Watch the episode, enjoy it. I'm not going to spoil that here. It does open with loads of mystery, but not in a good way, obviously, like I said, for us. So, surprise, surprise, in the opening of this episode, obviously it's not too much of a spoiler, so it's a mild spoiler. We open with 2 Supermen, no explanation, and Batwoman is already holding a piece of kryptonite. And again, there was a line in this episode which the interplay between Batwoman and Supergirl in this episode is so on point. It reminded me again of the Injustice video games. And there's a line that Batwoman Supergirl says to Batwoman, in fact, that has no context in that we haven't seen episode 2. So in that itself was very frustrating in a bad way. I had spent months debating with friends of mine, my own superheroes in my own life, Lord Hallam and Captain Louis, about what was going to happen with this episode. It's episode 3 of a part 5er. Are they going to do like a mini sort of recap? Is Sky going to reach out to E4 to get the episode they need from the Batwoman TV show? We got none of that here. So you pick up the pieces kind of in this kind of quasi kind of weird way of just accepting something has happened in the previous episode, and here we are in part 3. But it did almost in a weird way give me a small sense of nostalgia in that it reminded me of the first time I ever watched Peter Jackson's extended cut of The Fellowship of the Ring. And for those that are very diligent and have read the books prior to watching those movies, you kind of know all the intricacies and ins and outs of some of the characters and the additional bits of story. And in particular, I remember going to watch Fellowship of the Ring, just going off a bit track a little bit, sorry. But Frodo and Samwise Gamgee, if you remember the opening of Two Towers, they are holding this lasso, this kind of rope that they get down off this cliff face. But if you've ever seen the extended cut or read the book, you know that they are given that rope by Galadriel when they go to the Lothlorien woods. So in this episode, Batwoman just happens to have a piece of kryptonite, which she has in her hand, but we don't know how she got it. No explanation given. Enough of that, put that to bed for now. Let's go back to this episode. It is just stellar. Emotionally, everything that's happening, it's so good. The linchpin of it, funny enough, is obviously the fact that you've got a couple of connecting storylines going on. So again, no spoilers here, but just a small plot details. Obviously, one team is going off to try and rescue someone from purgatory. Again, there's a mild spoiler there, sorry, but they're going off to try go there to retrieve someone. In the midst of this as well, Batwoman is sort of keeping an eye on Supergirl to see if will or won't make a good choice about having to then rescue her Earth 38 in her own way. I'm not going to say too much more about that, but the moral debate in this episode is so good. It, again, like I said, it does harken back to the Injustice video game of that kind of grey space. Where is truth and morality and good and evil? Are they constants, or is this kind of sort of grey space that we all exist within, and what we deem to be right or known as our own justice in our life, is that in itself means to an end? So it's fantastically played out here, and Batwoman and Supergirl brilliantly execute that here so well. And there are other big decisions done in the episode as well. Iris and Barry Allen, Flash, that story in this is so captivating. It is a Flash episode, like I said, and there is something that will happen during the course of this part 3, which is so paramount, and again is a wonderful, beautiful callback to earlier Flash episodes, or any history of Flash that you ever know. You're going to get so much from this if you're a Flash fan, and if you've ever seen anything like Flashpoint Paradox before, or you've read Flash comic books, or again the Injustice video games, or seen some other iterations of Flash in the past, this is just going to be so good for you. You're going to get this. I was going to admit it, I was welling up. The episode got me. It got me good. As a part 3, this, like I said, this is like an Empire Strikes Back. There is so much that is happening, but in a good way, in that it feels layered, it feels well put together, so well constructed, so well laid out. And I'm imagining the director in their mind when they were planning this story and how everything was going to kind of tie in so excellently with the beginning of part 1 of this 5-part arc, but also carrying on from part 2, which we didn't get. But at least that this episode's so well done that you almost forgive it as you carry on, because the episode is so good. You're so captivated, enamored by it, that you go along for the journey, for the adventure, and you want to see what's going to happen next. It's a real page turner, what's happening on the screen. And the characters and the interactions are so good. I mean, we've had several years now to get to know these characters on their respective TV shows, and to see them always interacting is such a pleasure. This is the 4th time, obviously, that this has been done as a TV crossover, and none of that is wasted here. Every moment is not, everything is never at all is not thought about or doesn't mean something or project towards something. It's almost like Undertaker in the ring. If you're a WWE fan, it's like no move means nothing. It all culminates towards something. It all feels relevant. You're going to go with it. You're going to go with the flow. And also, a little bit going off track again here, but a lot of the time in these episodes, and those that in particular even more so in this part 3, a lot of the time the heroes are seen unmasked. Obviously, not all the heroes wear masks. Superman, Batgirl in particular, obviously will spring to mind. They only obviously have their cape, and obviously when they're in their normal civilian lives as Kara or Clark Kent, obviously have their their glasses and no one can recognise them. Surprise, surprise. But obviously, a lot of the time you see the other heroes unmasked. But the reason obviously being is it doesn't matter, because they're fighting across the infinitude. There's that word again. So we're protecting or trying to save all the multiverses, but it's okay because they're mostly interacting with each other, so it doesn't matter. But it did remind me of something I've been watching earlier this week, actually, funny enough, which was on another channel, Electronic Nostalgia, which was about the making of the Power Rangers movie. I remember how much the director in that documentary talked about, Brian Spicer's his name, about how he wanted to show more of the young actors at that time in that 1995 film without their visors on, without their helmets, so you could appreciate as an audience the detriment to which obviously they are wearing those costumes and that they're doing those scenes, and you really feel like the characters are in that space. And it kind of also reminded me in a weird way of a lot of the earlier Spider-Man films by Sam Raimi with Tobey Maguire, as Peter Parker stroke Spider-Man. So I thought that was again another really cool call up, and it's sort of, again, when an episode is this good and it's making you think about all these other aspects, you know it's doing its job. It's making you think and you're feeling and you're going along for that adventure. I also remember as well, many years ago, watching the making of the X-Men 2000 film, and Bryan Singer saying something very similar. Obviously, we'd want to see kind of more characters, what the characters you have in certain sections, or going off sporadically to do different things or different tasks within the episode is important. It does obviously feel like a very convenient way to convey things or go along for the set journey they're setting up for the next part, which is part obviously for tomorrow night, which is the hour episode. But if obviously we had obviously all the time in the world, you want to see everything, but obviously by being very constructive with who you do have on the screen, you're not going to have to spend too much obviously time explaining this and this and this, and to do this within what is barely 45 minutes, regardless of the adverts, is spectacular. This episode, I'm going to give it at least a 9 out of 10. I can't recommend this enough. If you have a means to obviously go back and watch episode 2, let me know in the comments. No spoilers, like I said yesterday. But if you're going to go back and watch episode 2 by some other means, by all means, I won't hold that against you. But let me know if you're going to do that, or will you wait for the eventual showcasing of episode 2 to be shown here in the UK on the Batwoman TV show. I'll be curious to hear that from you if you think that's what you might stay to do. But having watched yesterday's episode and this episode, wow, this is a blockbuster event. This is an Arrowverse blockbuster event. I'm almost dying to see what's just going to happen now, to compare or match up against the prior 3 crossover story arcs we've had previous years. See if this one is going to outdo it. At the moment, I feel like it kind of is looking that way. Fantastic episode, part 3. Crisis on Infinite Earths just keeps getting better and better. I was very choked up during the episode. The linchpin of it being a Flash episode, so good. Everything just felt like it meant something. All very, very strong and commanding and deserves your attention. Well, thank you so much for watching. I'm not going to go into too much more. Like I said, there's a no spoiler. Check it out if you can. Crisis on Infinite Earths. Continue watching. And thank you all so much. Stay safe, obviously, in these times of uncertainty. But please continue to support the channel. Please watch. Please share your opinions, thoughts. Please give it a thumbs up if you like the video. And let me know your reactions as well if you've seen these first few episodes so far as well. But thank you so much. Hope to see you all soon. And thank you and take care. Bye for now.